Chapter 21. The Present Passive System. Chapter 21 covers the following. How to form the passive voice in the present tense system of third IO, and fourth conjugations. And at the end of the lesson, we'll review the vocabulary which you should memorize in this chapter. There are two rules which you should remember here. Rule 1. The present tense passive second person singular in third conjugation has a short E, producing the ending eris, whereas the future has a long E, producing an aris ending. Rule number 2. The present passive infinitive in third and third IO conjugations has no R. It ends in just I, as in do key, to be led. Third IO, and fourth conjugation present passive forms. Ladies and gentlemen, here we reap the rewards of our hard work earlier. Back in Chapter 18, we covered the present passive system of third IO, and fourth conjugations, so there's no new grammar to learn here. The charts on the following slides should serve only as a reminder of the grammar we studied there. Here is the present passive system in third IO, and fourth conjugations, and here is the future passive in those same conjugations. As we noted earlier, there's a mandatory long mark in the future second person singular of the passive system in third conjugation, where the long E in the future form aris has a mandatory long mark in order to distinguish it from the present eris. So, for example, ageris means you are driven, as opposed to ageris, you will be driven. But that's virtually the only complexity you'll face here. And here's another reminder. A chart of third IO, and fourth conjugation verbs in their imperfect passive forms. And here's one last thing to remember about the passive system in these conjugations. The infinitive in third and third IO conjugations is signaled by an ending of just one letter, I, producing forms like agi, to be driven, or yaki, to be thrown. It's important to distinguish these from a very similar looking form, the first person singular perfect active, so that duksi, I have led, needs to be carefully distinguished from duki, to be led, grammatically very different forms. Similarly, agi, to be driven, must be carefully distinguished from agi, I have driven. And in third IO, yaki, to be thrown, versus yeki, I have thrown. And that's the entirety of the grammar for this chapter. Now let's look at the vocabulary. The first word is causa causae feminine, meaning cause or reason. It's a first declension feminine noun. In later Latin, this word would come to mean lawsuit, and from this we get the English word case, as in legal case. In its ablative singular form, causa, this word means literally by the cause, that is, for the sake of, or on account of, and as such expects with it an abstract noun in the genitive case. For example, libertatis causa, meaning for the sake of freedom. Note that the genitive noun typically precedes causa. It doesn't follow it, making it one of the relatively few examples in which word order matters in Latin. So what does copiarum causa mean? Good. On account of, or for the sake of, the troops. The next word is finis, feminine, meaning end, limit, boundary, or purpose. It's a third declension, feminine, I-stem noun. In the plural, like many Latin words, it has a special meaning. Ens implied to the Romans boundaries, and from that the sense of the boundaries of a country, thus its territory, very often used with the genitive of a people, as in the ends or the boundaries of the Gauls. So how would Latin say, into the Romans' territory? Good. In fines Romanorum. In plus the accusative, remember, means into. The next word is gens gentis feminine, meaning clan, race, nation, or people. It's another third declension feminine I-stem noun. Thus its genitive plural is, that's right, gentium. So what is its ablative singular? Good, gente. No I there, that happens only in the neuter. The next word is laus laudis feminine. It means praise, glory, or fame. It's a third declension feminine noun, and it's not I-stem. It doesn't have two consonants at the end of its base. Because it's an abstract noun, this word is often used as an ablative of manner, as in magna cum laude. Remember, the cum is optional there, meaning with great praise. The next word is atque or ac, meaning and also, and even. It's a conjunction. It has a slightly stronger connective force than et, and be careful to distinguish this word, ac or atque, which means and, from at, which means but. The next word is quod. It means because, and it's another conjunction. Literally, it's the relative pronoun in its neuter singular form, implying the fact which. How it came to mean because is simple if you look at it this way. Take, for example, the English expression, the fact is, and put it into a sentence such as, I did well on my test. The fact is, I studied hard. There it's easy to see that the fact is shows cause, and thus is equivalent to because. The next word is a verb, continuo, continere, continui, contentum, meaning hold together, contain, keep, enclose, or restrain. It's a second conjugation verb. This is a compound of teneo, so it means literally hold together. Con is the form cum takes when it's used as a prefix on a verb. And another thing to note about this verb is that it vowel gradates. So, for instance, when the prefix con is added, teneo becomes tineo and tinui. The next word is eubeo, eubere, usi, usum. It means bid, order, or command. It's a second conjugation verb. This verb expects both a direct object and a complementary infinitive. For example, I ordered them, accusative direct object, to do, complementary infinitive, it. If you don't know it already, learn the English derivative jussive, which comes from the fourth principal part of this verb, meaning having to do with a command. It's a term we'll use later in this class. The next word is rapio rapere, rapui raptum. It means seize, snatch, or carry away. It's a third io conjugation verb. It's often compounded, as for instance here, with the prefix e or x, producing eripio, eripere, eripui, ereptum. Thus it means to snatch or take away. While this verb doesn't appear formally in your vocabulary until the next chapter, I always think it's better to learn compounds with the basic verb. It just makes memorization that much easier. So let's go ahead and add eripio into this vocabulary list and just get it over with. It's not like we can avoid eripio forever. This verb provides some excellent examples of vowel gradation, to wit, eripio, eripui, and ereptum. Here, the more colorful a of the basic verb is degraded to either I or e. How would Latin say, to be seized? In other words, what's the present passive infinitive? Remember, it's third conjugation io. Excellent. Rapi, or in its compound form, eripi. And how would Latin say, having been seized? And let's make that nominative plural masculine. Having been, that's the fourth principal part of the verb, isn't it? Rapio, rapere, rapui, what is it? Oh yeah, raptum. But you gotta make it masculine nominative plural. Let's see, that would be, yes, rapti. The next word is skio, skire, skiwi, skitum. It means no, and it's a fourth conjugation verb. The basic meaning of skio is cut, as can be seen in English derivatives like scissors, or a word we get from a Greek cognate, schism. Other Latin verbs that also mean understand employ the same metaphor. For example, intellego, which is actually inter plus lego, meaning choose between, and discerno, literally to separate apart, both have an underlying sense of cut. How would Latin say they, and let's make it neuter, were known? Well, you could use one of two tenses here, couldn't you? The imperfect or the perfect. Let's start with the imperfect. The imperfect is in the present system, so there are going to be 4 different parts to this verb. The tense marker for the imperfect is BA, and it's passive, so the answer is skiebantur. And if it were perfect, this would be the perfect passive. That means there are going to be 2 words, the first of which is the perfect passive participle, and this is neuter. So let's see, it will be skita sunt. The next word is mundus mundi, masculine. It means world or universe. It's a second declension masculine noun. What do you think the English derivative from this word, mundane, means? Obviously, worldly, that is, ordinary or unimaginative, as opposed to divine or inspired or immortal. And the final item on this vocabulary list is another verb, tango tangere, tetigi tactum, meaning touch. Its third conjugation. Please note its perfect, tetigi, which is reduplicated. And also note the loss of the nasal infix n in the perfect. Actually, it's the other way around. The n is an infix inserted into the present to stress that that form is present tense, and as a present tense marker is naturally not used in the perfect. How would Latin say, they will touch? Think about it for a second. This is third conjugation. How does third conjugation form its future? That's right, with E. So the answer is tangent. Tangent? Like tangent? So what is a tangent? Of course, it's a line that touches a circle in only one place. And so concludes the presentation for Chapter 21. Do the rules that were cited at the beginning of this chapter now make sense to you? If not, please review this presentation. If so, please proceed to the next slide. For the next class meeting, please bring in a copy of the worksheet for Chapter 21. Here's a link to that worksheet. Finis est proxima, valete o discipuli.